Hi everyone. Um, I've been working for a while trying to figure out what I want to do with this channel. Um, and I actually found this as an extension of trying to recover from the debilitating aspect of what I'm about to talk about, and getting some advice from someone to go ahead and write a book, which I couldn't write. It was just too much. I started writing articles then, and I wanted to present my articles very professionally, but I also wanted to have a more personal um, way of interacting with people that was less edited and just present more casually. So basically what I've determined is I really want to talk about something called borderline personality disorder. Now, I have never been formally diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. My problem is that even though I've been suffering from borderline personality disorder since I was a little less than 4 years old. Um, I was also dealing with other issues such as synesthesia, which is where one or more of your senses gets crossed with another. And I was seeing and hearing and feeling, and all of those things were tied up within one another. So if I was feeling something, I'd see it and I'd hear it as well as feel it. And that was in combination with some PTSD and borderline personality disorder combined, and the enormous level of symptoms that borderline personality disorder can create, and the ways that your mind tries to cope with it, especially if you're real young, which a fair number of people with borderline personality do develop these symptoms at a young age. Um, it just made a situation that might not have otherwise been so hard. So it affected every aspect of my life for more than almost 30 years. Not quite, almost 30 years. Um, it's a personality disorder. And the thing about a personality disorder is it takes so much to fight it, to hide from it, to run from it, um, to do anything with it, basically, just to keep your head above water. And so it defines you. Every aspect of your life, it just defines you. And people say, yeah, but that's not all you are. That's just part of you, and that's not really the case with personality disorder. It pretty much it it is you, more or less. Um, but I managed to find my way through it, um, through very unconventional means. I'd like to talk a little bit about that. I'd like to talk about the disorder as I understand it, because, like I said, I've never been formally diagnosed. Um, I'd like to talk about the diagnostic procedure that is tied up in borderline personality disorder. Um, a lot of doctors don't want to work with it. A lot of family members don't want to work with it. A lot of people with borderline personality disorder lack social support structure, and that is absolutely essential in a lot of ways to combating it. A lot of the diagnostic procedure requires that there be a baseline, but if in my case, it affected me it pretty much 24/7, especially tied in with another one I forgot to mention, bipolar 2 disorder. So, one thing would trigger another, would trigger another, would trigger another. So I was just in this perpetual state of just suffering. And so I was never going to be able to receive any kind of diagnosis because I was never not affected in a very noticeable, volatile way. And so I could never get that formal diagnosis. So I had to more or less diagnose myself and treat myself and a bunch of stuff because I just couldn't get that. But when I do look at some of the criteria by which it is diagnosed, there are certain criteria such as the fact that people with borderline personality disorder are 10 times more likely to be put on antipsychotics versus people who just suffer a generalized depression. Primary reason for that being borderline personality disorder is not a chemical imbalance. It's the physiology of the brain that is different. When you have an experience, your brain physically stores that experience. The way it builds, the way it shapes itself, that's how it stores it. And at the heart of borderline personality disorder, it is a disorder of it's an identity disorder that stems from intense feelings of abandonment. And when I finally started looking into it, which took me a while because I was dealing with so many different problems, and one of them I had identified was bipolar disorder, but I couldn't figure out where I fit in there because nothing really fit the way that it should. And what I eventually realized when I watched this one YouTube video, and this doctor was saying, here are the differences between bipolar disorder and borderline personality disorder. And it got to one point in the video and she said, and you can have both. And it was like, oh, I could have both. Huh. Because I was trying to figure out, I knew I was struggling with bipolar disorder, but I knew that the level that I was struggling with it was, there was something else really, really wrong there. It wasn't the way people talk about bipolar disorder and the way they manage bipolar disorder and the lack of ability I had to manage my condition made me realize there was something more. But then I realized that I was dealing with two things, not one thing. And then it started to make sense. So anyway, that's when I started looking into it. The more layers I started exploring, the more I realized I was being triggered by learning about my condition, because it just hit me too real. That's the way that I would explain the way that I ended up diagnosing myself. As I read it more and more, it just felt it felt, and I could see it in my past and in my present. It was just too it was just hitting the nail too on the head. Um, so I knew that's what I was struggling with without being formally diagnosed. So, anyway, that's what I want to go ahead and talk about. That's what this channel is going to be about. Is just kind of me talking about where some of that came from, and ways that I've managed it, and ways that it's impacted my life, and hopefully be able to help some people out there who are struggling with it, who don't know what to do with it. Help some people to be able to identify what they're having trouble with, if they haven't been able to figure it out already. And hopefully provide a few little tidbits of advice that may help in reaching and aiding these people in the future.